It's funny. I have a really good friend who's a phenomenal speaker. He actually happens to be a minister too. These ministers are so good at speaking. And I asked him, I said, Hank, what's one of the secrets that you have of being a great speaker, being able to communicate with an audience? And he said, Sean, it's all about empathy. It's all about empathy for the audience. Think about that audience that you have, and maybe they had a rough night's sleep because they're out too late and they slept in a shitty hotel bed, right? They're tired because of all the different sessions that they've been through, right? Some of them were maybe good, some of them maybe they didn't like so much. And so I'm thinking about that over here, being like, have empathy for the audience, Sean. Like, that's all that it is. And yet what I'm really thinking about is, this is literally the first time I've ever worn these pants. And they feel really tight. And I'm like, who actually does that? Who gets pants and the first time they wear them is on stage? And then I thought, what are people gonna think of this super bro-y t-shirt I'm wearing, right? Snack so hard. And then Chris, who introduced me, right? Said, Sean Kelly, he's like, yeah, man, and it's got a V-neck. You kind of look like you're in a boy band. And so I'm just like, man, I'm thinking, and then, Sean, you're thinking about yourself. This is all wrong. Empathy for the audience. So anyway, my objective today is to have empathy for you, for us to have a little bit of fun together, for me to remove my ego and how silly I look through this presentation so that we all get something out of this. Is that cool? All right. Can we stand up real quick? Stand up real quick. I just want you to go to two people, preferably on your left and right, and give them a very robust, overhead, double-handed high five. That's it, two of them. Two of them. Just two. You can go for three if you want. You can get extra credit. I see we have some overachievers in here, some type A individuals. We all love those type A friends always getting extra credit, always better than us. Anyway, why do we do that? What's released when you high five or you touch somebody? Energy, yes. But what's the form of energy? What's the chemical that's released? A little bit of endorphins, but something more. It's actually the same thing that's released during love, trust, human connection, and even sex. Oxytocin. We're going to talk about human connection here, right? So we just had an oxytocin release. Who's ever felt worse after a high five? Good. See, again, empathy for the audience, right? Churn down for what? So what are we actually, how do I work this thing? Nice, starting out successfully. We're talking about what I believe to be the most important things in my business, okay? And I say my business because I was once told that the worst vice is advice. This is about me giving you shared experiences in over 3 years of building SnackNation from 0 to over 150 employees, giving you shared experience of what I think has worked and has not worked for us. Hopefully there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 nuggets for you, but I understand that maybe not all of this works. This isn't about advice, it's about shared experience. And some of the things that I'm most excited about, right, and the things that I think are most important are maximizing customer retention through employee retention. I don't think there's anything more important than the experience we give the people that we have the pleasure of spending time with each and every day. And obviously, as a subscription and recurring revenue focused business, we all know that customer retention is super, super important too. Why can I speak about culture? Well, there's many things I should probably not speak about. But these are some of the things I'm really proud about. We were rated a best place to work, a top company culture by Entrepreneur Magazine. We're a great place to work, certified and satisfied. And Inc. just recently, last week, named us one of the best workplaces for 2018. These, right, most awards are kind of silly. Let's admit it, they're a little bit silly. These may be silly too, but they mean a lot to me because they're primarily based on the data and insights that our employees gave these institutions. So I'm fired up. I also think that our culture is one of the big reasons that people buy from SnackNation. Yes, we have awesome snacks, but I really think people see it as culture being delivered in a box, right? I think that's important to them, right? I think the way that we treat our employees is important to our customers. Why else do they buy from us? Well, like I said, right? We snack so hard, mothers want to find me. That's one of my long-term goals, is for mothers to look in the pantry and be like, we're out of snacks and we got to go to SnackNation because there's no way that I can curate and get such good snacks like SnackNation can. And by the way, why am I integrating hip-hop lyrics? I'm a preppy kid from northern Michigan with next to no musical talent. This is the closest I will ever get to being a rapper. It's also nice to interject rap lyrics in an otherwise perhaps really boring talk, okay? So just bear with me. I know it's ridiculous. Like I said, I believe the customer experience that you have, that your customers have, is a direct reflection on your employee experience. Perhaps not all the time. There may be a gap, but I think if the gap is big, if the way you treat your team and the way that you act, your values under the roof of your office are different than how you treat your customers, I think eventually you will be discovered. I think eventually you will be discovered, and it's not a good thing. Pure authenticity as an organization is where the customer experience is the same, very similar to the employee experience, because guess what? Customers and employees, we're all human beings. We all want the same thing. We're much more alike than we are different. Also, there's this big talk. We're primarily B2B, right? Over 90%, even though our B2C business is growing rapidly, over 90% of our revenue is B2B. And so some people are like, well, geez, I'm in the B2C world, B2B world, that's weird, right? My belief is that B2B and B2C are converging. Whereas B2C people typically look at B2B and say, well, geez, because of your average revenue being so high per customer and this huge LTV, you can spend more time with your customers. You can develop a relationship. You can invest in human touch. Now, you can do that in B2C too. And if you want to win, you better invest in those relationship building activities. Very similar on the other side, people in B2B are like, oh my gosh, we got to go and acquire customers the hard way, right? Just dialing for dollars. There's no acquisition funnels that work for us. Not true. If you invest in content and thought leadership and aspiration, you can actually create inbound funnels that work for your B2B business. So this is another belief of mine. Has anybody read this book? The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's so hard. Yes, I got at least one. Nice, I'm super relatable. There's like 3 people who have read this. It's awesome, okay? I highly recommend it. Ben Horowitz, a famed venture investor of Andreessen Horowitz up in the Bay Area of California, he tells a story about the Go Corporation. Go Corporation was one of the most heavily backed venture companies of all time before it sold for next to nothing in 1994 for AT&T. Employees made no money. It was a massive public failure, and it wasn't a career advancement. Yet if you talk to the employees, they will tell you that their experience at Go Corporation was the best or one of the best of their lives. What gives? What gives? Well, the late Bill Campbell was the CEO of Go Corporation. And he built a leadership team and a philosophy where leaders cared more about the people that they led than they did themselves, under the mantra of how do you help your team become better versions of themselves. This story just resonated with me so much. Here's a venture capitalist saying that being a good company, creating positive impact on your team is the most important thing that we do. It's why companies exist. And so I set out to find, how do I help people become better versions of themselves? I wasn't taught this. I went to Johns Hopkins, Columbia University. After college, I dove into direct response marketing, digital marketing. I didn't have a class that's like, learn how to help people become better versions of themselves. Did anybody else take a course like that in your formal education? Well, thankfully, in the age of the internet, which Al Gore invented, okay, got one chuckle. It is a story you got to look up if you don't know about Al Gore's invention of the internet. But there's this principle, right? There's this principle of human motivation called SDT, not to be confused with STDs. That one was a little bit more relatable for the audience. Okay, I like it. SDT is self-determination theory. It says that there's only 3 things in life that will move the needle when it comes to our fulfillment and our ability to motivate others. These intrinsic motivators are all that matter. These are the things to focus on if you want to influence people and help them become better versions of themselves. Number 1 is connection. Creating deep relationships with people around you. What's the number one reason for therapy in America today? Loneliness. That's pretty important. Number 2, growth, competence, getting better in a field or an area that matters to you. That's also really important. And then 3rd, authenticity, which is directly related to purpose. Being able to show up in the world, no matter how broy or boy bandish you look, and be able to be okay with it. And be able to understand, what was I created for, not what do people want me to be. These are the 3 things that matter. And I believe that if you build both an employee-facing and customer-facing models and experience around the principles of self-determination theory, and also capture the right data and insights to build the right framework, you're going to have massive retention success and a really, really good business, and more importantly, a hell of a lot of fun creating massive impact for all those that you serve on your team and all of their families. It'll also be financially rewarding. You'll be sitting here being like Kanye, who said 50 told me go ahead and switch the style up, and if they hate, let them hate. Watch the money pile up. I'm talking about so much money. I'm talking about Lambos and yachts. I'm talking about prepaying all of your subscriptions even when you don't get a discount. That's serious cash, okay? So the top tips, we already covered them. Create a culture that inspires connection, growth, and purpose and authenticity. Well, let's get into the how-tos of how to actually do this, because this is right now it's kind of feeling like, is this Care Bear stuff? Is this real? Like, how do you actually do it? It sounds nice when you're on stage, but this is ridiculous. I have a business to run, Sean. Geez, when is lunch? Connection. Connection is important, and it's not because I believe it's important, right? It's because a lot of other people much more experienced and more intelligent than me believe it's important, such as Big Sean, right? A prominent philosopher, I believe, in the 14th century. Just kidding, he's a rapper. It is what it is, trust me, you get what you give. The beautiful thing about connection is it's a two-way street. You can connect with yourself. That's typically called meditation. Human connection is all about giving and getting and creating this amazing synergistic atmosphere. Okay, let's check out this one. Who's read Sapiens? Anybody? Okay, yes, we got a few more there. 4. Okay, I think I got 3 again, 5. I got 5 on that one. Sean, good work. You're building on relatability here. 3 to 5. So Sapiens is a bestseller, another one I highly, highly recommend. In Sapiens, he talks about the evolution of humankind, and he talks about that in order to raise a human, it's always required a tribe. Therefore, we've got it wrong. It's not about survival of the fittest. Evolution's actually all been about survival of the kindest. The better you are at creating human connections, the better you are at making people feel the way that they want to feel, the more successful you'll be. And then there's this other small company called Google that was doing this research on what are the commonalities of their highest performing teams over multiple years in all cross sections and departments. They only found 2 commonalities between their high performing teams. What do we think they were? Being heard. What else? Trust. I think I heard synergy. What about intelligence? What about experience? Who here hires for experience? Okay. Who here hires for empathy? Specifically. Okay. What they found was there were only 2 commonalities. First and foremost, the best performing teams spoke in the same proportion. They shared the air. They cared what everybody around the table thought, and they actually, for the most part, forced people to speak their opinion no matter what, especially the quietest people. Secondly, they had high degrees of social sensitivity, meaning they were good at intuiting how other people felt. The best performing teams know how to do kindergarten well. They're really good at playing in the sandbox of life. When you have low connection, you're likely to be anxious, more depressed, and more violent than people with high connection. You have a lot, this is some fascinating science on inflammation. We've heard about inflammation all the time. Most people don't really know what that means, but we know that it's not good. People with low degrees of connection have higher inflammation than those people with higher degree of connection, okay, but that have obesity, are smokers, or they have high blood pressure. If you have high connection, you have increased longevity, you're happier, you're healthier, you're more helpful, and you're better performing, right? So if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, a sociological perspective, a biological perspective, we are meant to connect. We are literally meant to connect. It's the most important thing that we do. If you don't have a team that's connecting, how are you going to create deep, meaningful connections with your customers? I don't think you will. So what do you do for this? How do you create more connection in your space? If you're sitting there being like, okay, maybe this kind of makes sense. I'd like to create a little bit more connection. These are some things that you can do. Here's the obligatory picture of a golden retriever. You hire for empathy. It's one of the two most important things that at SnackNation we hire for across the organization. What do you think the other thing is besides empathy? We screen every person for these two things. Amazon actually has said that this other thing, Amazon and Google have come together and said the commonality between the highest performing individuals on cross-sections of multiple companies is this other thing. Teams, it's all about empathy, right? Individuals, it's what? Gratitude. So we screen for empathy and gratitude. Literally, I know it sounds crazy. It's the truth. So what do we say? We say when people come in, tell us about your proudest moment. People who have empathy, what will they talk about? Maybe not on the first try, but maybe the second or the third. They'll say what? They'll talk about an experience with the team. They'll talk about how they were in this team and they were able to achieve really cool things. They talk about how they were able to get somebody to perform at a higher level. People who only talk about themselves after, by the way, you ask them second, third, and fourth questions. I'm always amazed by interviewers. They ask one question, they get an answer, and then they move on. All the juice is in the third or fourth question. What else? Tell me more. What else? Do you have anything else to say? Right? You'll find it. Then tell me about a time you had to deliver tough feedback. People with empathy, you'll see them. They're not going to be like, oh, it's just business. Just business? Come on. It's supposed to be hard when you get to give tough feedback. And then even asking the question of what does empathy mean to you? These are all very helpful in screening for empathy. 2, recognition and gratitude. We force it. And people are like, how do you force recognition and gratitude? That seems artificial and inauthentic. Who here is married? Okay. Who here believes, I am too, at least last time I checked. Who here believes that you're going to have wonderful date nights, an amazing relationship with your spouse at night if you do not plan for date nights, if you do not force them? I know we would all like that not to be the case and for it just to be spontaneous and awesome. You got to plan for them. You got to plan for the shit that matters. So every week at 4 p.m. on Fridays, we get together at SnackNation for a crush it call. What does that mean? Every person in the company goes around. It's volunteer-based. Most people go, and they crush somebody for an achievement or recognition that they saw that person make that embodied one of our company's core values. They also state what they're most grateful for in life at that moment. This is pretty cool, right? We all get more connected. We feel better, and we head into the weekend on a high note. And why is that so important? Because when people go in on a high note, they feel good about their team. They feel good about themselves. What do? There's ripple effects on their husband, on their wives, on their grandparents, on their friends. If your team members are creating positive impacts on the people that they spend time with, do you think their retention might improve? Do you think their retention is going to go up? Do you think it's going to be good for your business? It's massively important. I don't think we think enough about how our team members, how what we do and how our company is impacts everyone else in our team members' lives. Appreciation. Such a simple thing. We'll talk a little bit more about this on the customer side. But I don't think we appreciate enough. Yes, we love to appreciate extraordinary results. Oh my gosh, our average MRR per customer is $1,000. And Melanie, you just went and got a $40,000 a month MRR customer. Amazing, fantastic. What about just appreciating people for doing a consistently good job, for showing up and creating positive impact? I was on a cruise in the Mediterranean with my brother-in-law. We may or may not have been having martinis. We were looking out over the open ocean, and I asked my brother-in-law, who is a sales manager at Cintas, who is the most impactful manager and leader you've ever had? And he mentioned this gentleman, and I said, why? He said, because he cares deeply about me. I said, how do you know he cares deeply about you? He said, Sean, on every wedding anniversary, in every birthday, he writes me a card. What else? Okay, yeah, there's all these other things, but literally he cares about me. He asked me, how was your anniversary? How's your relationship? How are your kids? Right? That made that big of a difference to him. And it was so impactful. And all it took was knowing your team members' birthdays and anniversaries and writing them cards. Presents, honor it. I was at the Aspen Ideas Festival last summer. Has anybody ever heard of that? It's a pretty cool conference. It's all about politics and thought leadership. But Adam Grant from the Wharton School and Simon Sinek were on stage, and they were talking about the importance of empathy being the most important thing to boost your culture in your workspace. And somebody asked, well, how do you actually improve empathy? What's the number one thing you can do? What was their reply? Related to this picture. Remove cell phones, and preferably cell phones and computers, from all meeting rooms. There's nothing you can do that says, I don't care about you, I don't care what you're saying, more than, this is for me, everybody who's on their phone right now. It's calling you out. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, that's great. I'm glad how's your weekend? That's pretty sweet. Yes, 12 likes. Remove computers, remove mobile phones, and then what happens? People actually connect. And then the whole goal here is to create what David Brooks calls a complete intolerance for social distance. If you remove social distance from your workspace, you're going to see a lot of magic unfold. We could talk a lot about growth. Growth's really important. All I'm going to say is the most important thing with growth that we've found is finding out specifically for each individual on your team, because it's completely different for every person, how they want to grow personally and professionally. And then no matter what it is, I don't care if they want to be a hazelnut farmer or they want to be a basketball coach, you then work with them to say, these are the departmental and organizational objectives. And by the way, this is how you're moving closer to your professional and personal goals, by doing what you need to do in this organization. Just that. It's so simple. People get scared, like, oh my gosh, well, what if somebody wants to be a basketball coach and they're currently a salesperson? Do you think you could let them know all the different ways as a salesperson that every single day they'll become a better basketball coach in the future if they do their job well? Absolutely. It's just connecting the dots. So that's all that growth's about. That's literally what growth is about. If you do that, you'll see magic. And you'll be able to step back and say, wow, started from the bottom, now the whole team here. You know what I mean? Which is what we all see. I told you these hip hop lyrics injected here are ridiculous. It's fun. And then moving on to purpose and authenticity. All I'll say is if you want to learn about purpose and authenticity, which I highly suggest you do, read these two books. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is magic. It talks about how our purpose is not out there for us to go and find in Nepal on top of a mountain, but our purpose is what's in front of us in every moment. If we ask ourselves, what does this moment demand of me? We will find our purpose much sooner than going off on vacation or a meditation retreat. Okay, it says that our purpose in life changes from person to person, man to man, woman to woman, and moment to moment. The Purpose Economy by Aaron Hurst talks about how we've moved from an agrarian to an industrial to an information, and now we're in the purpose economy. And if you do not find a way to get your team members to feel a true sense of purpose and meaning in your organization, you will never have good retention. Because at the end of the day, what we all want, and especially what your team members want, is to feel like we matter. That our lives actually matter. That if I didn't show up today, that it would be different. If you do these two things combined with the others, fireworks, magic will occur. Here's one of my favorite hip-hop artists, Pablo Picasso. I'm pretty sure he was a rapper. So the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. This is cheesy, but I don't know who this doesn't resonate with. I don't know who this doesn't resonate with. I get a little bit of goosebumps every time I even see it. The benefits of increased purpose, by the way, are massive. Think about all of the things that you want your team and yourself to do, you will feel when you have a greater sense of purpose, okay? Authenticity at the end of the day, remember, it's not what do I have to do. It's not what am I expected to do. It's what was I created to do. Help your team find what they were created to do, what their unique abilities are, what resonates with them and what doesn't, what gives them energy and what takes it away, and you will be magic in their life. At SnackNation, our internal purpose is to inspire people to become better versions of themselves. Externally, we're here to inspire more conscious food decisions because we believe that if you're conscious and intentional about the food you eat, you're going to have a healthier and a better life because nothing impacts your body and your mind more than the food and drink that you put in it. These things are directly connected. They're reflective of one another. Now we're going to get into the customer experience. Is that cool? Get into the customer experience? Okay, so we just talked about the employee experience, so how does this matter? What about customer experience? Well, look, it's a lot of the same stuff, just in different ways. What are the top ways to maximize customer attention like crazy? First and foremost, human touch and interaction. I know we're supposed to automate, right? We're supposed to automate. Second, aspirational alignment. And third, authenticity and purpose represented through your brand and your thought leadership. Herb Keller, the founder of Southwest Airlines, he had a great quote on his wall. It said, touch, don't linger. Okay? Hugs are okay. Just don't linger. Don't be a creep. All right? So the first thing, humanize right away. Humanize immediately. I know you think, I can't make a phone call. I can't write a card. I can't do it. That's complete BS. Backcountry.com, before they sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they were doing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. 40%, and I believe it was $200 million worth of their sales. 40%, this is a B2C e-commerce site. 40% was from customer service reps calling customers and asking if they wanted to order, talking to them about their ski season, about their hiking. 40% of the revenue from a B2C e-commerce site was calling and actually just checking in and caring about their customers. So how can you humanize right away and let people know this is not a business transaction, it's a relationship? Because if you're in the mode where people think that their relationship with you is a transaction, you will never have good retention. You connect a person to it. We think of relationships as significance that they'll last into the future, so you got to humanize it. Create that bond and relationship. Top tip, there we go again, handwritten notes. You may say, Sean, I have 1 million customers. That's ridiculous. I was at the Founders Forum last year, okay? And the founder of Chewy.com had just sold to PetSmart for $3.3 billion. That's with a B, $3.3 billion. And the forum and the panel was all about how do you defeat Amazon? Anybody got that question? Well, what if Amazon comes into your space? And you're like, I don't know, I'm screwed. He said there's 2 things that you can do to beat Amazon. Go deep in your niche. Care more than they do and become an expert in that niche. For him, it was pets. Number 2, provide a better service experience. And that service experience is purely through being a human and seeing your customers as human beings, just like you see your team members. Last December, they wrote 5 million personal handwritten cards. 5 million sold for $3.3 billion. They're a pet store. Anyway, pretty interesting. The human shit's important. Aspirational alignment, I'm just going to say, read this book. I think it costs like $2.99. I don't make any money on this. Who do you want your customer to become? I think it'll take you like 45 minutes to scan through. It's the best change in perspective around what marketing should be, in my opinion. Who do you want your customer to become? Because what does that force you to do? It forces you to think of your customer as an individual, just like as a member of your team. You're thinking, what are they going through? Why are they utilizing my product or service? Or as Clayton Christensen from the Harvard Business School said, right? What are customers hiring my product to do for them? Right? So aspiration, that's what aspirational alignment is all about, is figuring out how you can serve as a guide to your customer's transformation. That transformation could be physical, emotional, or spiritual. Believe it or not, every single person in this room wants a physical, emotional, and spiritual transformation. If you can do any one of those and let your customers know that you're a guide for that transformation, bam, again, fireworks. It'll be magic. If you can do all 3, you'll have an incredibly successful business. You can do a lot of stuff in terms of mapping the customer journey and saying, okay, if this person wants to do X in transformation, they want to go from A to Z, then you can actually map out where your product or service currently helps them and where the gaps are. And you can start to insert based on those gaps. Rather than sitting in a room and saying, how should we innovate? You can actually think about the customer, right, and fill in those gaps. It's actually a pretty cool innovation practice. And then let's go to brand and thought leadership and authenticity. Here's my boy, Jay-Z. Just kidding, he's definitely not my boy. I'd love for him to be my boy, but Jay-Z, if you're watching, you're definitely not watching. Anyway, he's not my boy, but I do like Jay-Z a lot. And he says, doctors say I'm the illest because I suffer from realness, right? And that's what we want. We want customers to say, oh my gosh, this company is so real. They have these beliefs and this passion and they can't help it, right? And you want, by the way, people who love your product and service to say that. You also want who to say that? People who don't disagree with you and who you repel and who you push away. You want people to just be like, man, this company's real. Damn, I wish I could be that real. Damn, I want to work for that company. So that's what it's all about. And when I say brand and thought leadership, and if you're sitting here and being like, man, we kind of exist to make money and we kind of thought we had this cool idea, how can I do it? Well, it takes a little while. But it's not a question of what does society want me to be? Or, oh my gosh, what do I think would be really cool? It's not being opportunistic. This is not opportunistic. It's sitting with your key constituents, with your team members, perhaps some of your best customers, and saying, guys, why do we exist? What do we care about in the world? Who are we? Even though we're diverse and we're different, what are the commonalities that we share? Purpose, just like your brand, is discovered, it's not created. Understand, I'm always find it amusing, probably because I think about myself. When I talk to younger entrepreneurs, not just younger entrepreneurs, but many times it's right out of college, and I'm like, well, who's your target demographic? They're like, well, like people from 12 to 60, men, women, United States, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa. Yeah. Like, so you left out people under 12 in Antarctica. Like, yeah, it's not reasonable to ship to them. It's much better to think who is the wrong customer for you. You want to maximize customer retention, you can't do it by attracting the wrong customer. You're literally going to be bashing your head against a wall. And I find that going towards the negative, right, the whole Socratic method of not proving something to be true, but proving something to be not true is the best. So think about who is absolutely not the right customer for you and build around that. That can help in this exercise. And then you create aligned content. We've heard it before. Gary Vee talks about it all the time. All right, create content. Content is king. Gary would say that we're now moving into an attention economy where attention is the most important. You got to create content that works, that makes sense, and that's aligned with your core values. So what do, right? We create webinars. 5 surprising secrets of successful office managers. We want to help office managers become the absolute best in their role, whether they see that as a career or they want to see it as a stepping stone to move somewhere else in the organization or to another company. Right, so we try to own this space. Here's one of the office managers, Jen down here. Between the phone calls, the emails, the newsletters, and the podcasts, you guys have not only helped me to improve my skills as an office manager, you've made me wish I could work for you. Thanks for being awesome. Do you think she churns? Do you think she churns? Unless they're literally bankrupt, she doesn't churn. Right? With SMBs, that does happen. But we put out a podcast on culture and leadership. It's the Awesome Office Show. It's awesomeoffice.org. That's actually now been moved under Brand Builder. If you guys care a lot about building an amazing brand, but also an amazing team, we have Brand Builder, SnackNation.com/Brand Builder, or go to Brand Builder on iTunes. You can hear us talk about all these things. And people will say, well, podcasts, what's the demand gen? What's the direct response? What's the ROI? You can't track it like you can a Facebook funnel. But I will tell you, if you create beautiful content that resonates with you, is aligned with your core purpose, and serves the transformation of your customer, it will pay massive dividends. And by the way, your CAC, your cost of acquisition, will decline over time instead of increasing. Our last fundraising round, right, we raised $12 million a little bit ago. Our last round, $1 million of those dollars came from somebody listening on the podcast. who is now one of my top mentors, business partners, has introduced me to so many strategic partners because literally he was listening to our podcast one day. So you got to stick to it, you got to believe in it, but it ends up delivering content, ends up delivering real value. We're now in the data and insight section. This is when things get really boring. I'm just kidding. Well, actually, I don't know, they may. So we talked about self-determination theory. We talked about connection, growth, and authenticity for our employees, and how when done well, that can reflect in a very similar way to giving our customers the best experience. And if you combine this with data and insights, that's what I said, that's real success. Let's remember, going back to connection, that a connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. What's listening? Listening is not hearing somebody. It's letting somebody know they've been heard. Two very different things. This is what we're trying to do. Connection can drive incredible consumer retention. The challenge is making large, diverse groups feel seen, heard, and valued. This is hard. It's a lot easier when you're one-on-one, right? Or you have a team of 10 or 100 or whatever it may be. It's much harder when you have tens of thousands or millions. The jumping off points to doing this and building this framework, this is a framework that has been magic for us, is first off understanding every single one of your customers' value proposition and needs. You may think everybody's the same. That's not the case. Ask your customer, dig in, and find out. For us at SnackNation, there's primarily two value props. People either care about getting the most amazing, phenomenal snacks that resonate with their team. So it's all about quality of snacks, or they care about what? Cost. Yes, we want things that are better. Yes, we want stuff that doesn't make our team feel horrible and lead to worse health. But at the end of the day, it's a budget thing. So we have cost and quality as our two value props, and we segment customers based on that. The next thing is natural propensity for retention. What is their likelihood for retention? So for instance, somebody who's been with you for 15 months or been with SnackNation for 18 months, 2 years, they're very likely to continue. They're really good, right? There's other people, for instance, that people are early on in the churn window that we say there's a high churn risk, right? And then we also ask people, what's the best way and place to interact? Because we find that some people really love all the beautiful communication we give them, and some people are like, yo, talk to the left because you ain't right. I'll talk to you when I want to, okay? So we also have that communication cadence. And what does this do? Well, it creates this framework. I know this looks confusing, but just hold on for a second. So we have customer feedback, primarily delivered through NPS on the Y. Everybody can do this in here, by the way. Everybody can do this. You have a Y-axis that's NPS. How much do people like you? On the X-axis is your retention propensity, right? As your retention propensity, where does that sit? You'll notice then that the value props are different colored dots for us, cost and snack quality, okay? If somebody basically doesn't like us that much, but they've hung around for a long time, we call that common law marriage. You don't like us that much, but hey, you know what? Shit ain't too broke, so we'll hang. On the other side, if people like us a lot, but they've only been with us for 2 months, we call that a Tinder fling. This might end. Right? The middle is the friend zone. What do we want to do? Come on, Beyonce. We want to get everybody to put a ring on it, okay? That's what we want to do. So everything that we do is focused on this. You see the arrows going up and then over. So how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, if you look at, let's look at this common law individual. They've been with us for a long time, but they don't think they were that cool. They rate us relatively low on NPS, and they care about snack quality. Well, we're going to give them an offer that improves snack quality, right? Give them a special offer that says, hey, please sign up for an extension. We're going to give you improved quality. That gets them to move up in NPS. If you look at the person with a Tinder fling, let's look at that upper green. They care about cost. They haven't been with us for too long, but they're like, you guys are freaking awesome. That night with you was the best night ever. We're going to give them a time extension, right? A time extension with a discount. Does that make sense? But you can get everybody moving up and to the right to put a ring on it based on understanding your customers. And just as a quick little thing that shows how cool this is and how it works, we recently did a test a couple months ago. Customers with the following profile. They cared a lot about quality snacks. So these weren't the people that cared all about cost, right? Weren't just like, I'm going to buy a Frito-Lay and granola bars. They had high quality snacks. They had a high churn propensity, meaning they were not with us for that long. A low NPS. They were a 0 to a 7, means they were either detractors, okay, thinking that at some point they're going to churn, or they were passive and they're like, whatever, SnackNation's so cool, but I don't snack so hard. And they liked communication. They were friendly. Basically, they weren't mean people. So what do? We shipped these individuals a mix of amazing snacks that you could not find anywhere else in the market, because we get a lot of those snacks. There was never in a curation before, and we said, hey, we understand that you're the office tastemaker. We understand you care a lot about this and that you're awesome. Check this out, this is on us. That alone got 60% of the 0 to 7s in NPS to move to becoming promoters. 60%. And you can say like, oh my gosh, is that worth? But geez, that's like $25, $30, $50. We all know how much churn costs us. You can spend a lot on retention and have it make a lot of sense for your business. So wrapping up here, success. Success is the principles of self-determination theory. Inspiring that growth, inspiring that purpose and authenticity, inspiring deeper bonds with our team members and with our customers, combined with a framework where you truly understand what your customers want, where they are, and how they want to transform in their lives. We all want to transform. We all want something to be better. And in that way, we're all very similar. My hope is that you leave here, you go into lunch, and you listen to my boy, Notorious B.I.G. I can say that, he's no longer with us. Stay far from timid, only make moves when your heart's in it, and live the phrase, the sky's the limit. And of course, let us all remember, churn down for what? Thank you.